Mic 1 2 1 2. Mic 1 2 1.
Hey everyone, what's up? Brendan Lutz with motocross.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2008 RM Z450. We've been waiting a long time to get to ride this bike. We know you've been waiting a while to see how it actually is. It's fuel injected, all new. Let's go see how it is. Yes, we finally got a chance to swing a leg over and spin some laps on the all-new 2008 Suzuki RM Z450. After years of development, the yellow machine is probably one of the most highly anticipated bikes in years, and for good reason, as it comes equipped with fuel injection, an all-new chassis, updated suspension, and a 5-speed gearbox, just to name a few new features. Needless to say, it's probably the most updated bike to be released this year. For years now, fuel injection has been the next step in the evolution of the now highly advanced 4-stroke technology for many of the factories. However, Suzuki is the first one to step out on a limb and make the decision to release it. So how does it work? Well, we'll get to that. But first, a quick rundown on some of the new features found on the big yellow 4-stroke. Like we said, pretty much everything is new, from the engine to the suspension to the chassis, but we'll start with perhaps the most significant change, the electronic fuel injection. Years of development went into creating this aspect of the new RMZ, and it shows. The batteryless system charges via the magneto and stores enough energy to power the ignition for numerous hours. If the system is completely drained of power, all it takes are a few kicks to bring it back to life, and after that, simply riding the bike continues to charge it up. The fuel is delivered to the engine by an internal fuel pump which is housed inside a trick aluminum gas tank. The whole goal of the fuel injection is to improve roll-on throttle response as well as increase low to mid power. For more information on this high-tech system, be sure to check out the supplemental video detailing just how it works. Another area that Suzuki focused on to improve power was the combustion chamber, which was redesigned to increase low to mid-range throttle response and power, while the flywheel inertia was increased to smoothen out and improve power delivery all throughout. As far as other engine improvements go, Suzuki also added another gear, equipping the new RMZ with a 5-speed gearbox rather than 4. Moving on to the chassis, Suzuki engineers nearly went back to the drawing board with the goal of retaining the exceptional turning prowess of the Suzuki while saving weight and improving performance. To achieve this, they kept the same basic geometry as last year's bike, but instead slimmed things down significantly and improved the overall rigidity for improved handling and turning prowess. Suzuki claims that this slimmed-down chassis also opens up the rider compartment, making for a much more comfortable ride. To complement the new chassis, new cartridge forks were added to reduce weight and help better absorb hard hits and rough tracks, while the shock received equally as many improvements as well as a new damper case and modified internal structure. Finally, in the cosmetic department, Suzuki obviously updated the plastics and graphics, but they also added yellow anodized rear axle blocks, flatter and wider foot pegs, wave brake rotors for improved stopping power, and a relocated hot start lever on the throttle side of the bars, just like the factory bikes. When we first sat on the RMZ, we knew that this bike was drastically improved over the 07 model. Even when sitting on it, we could tell it was slimmer, lighter, and just more comfortable than its predecessor. Once we fired it up and took to the track, our excitement only grew. The fuel injection does exactly what Suzuki was hoping for, as it improves the initial throttle response and helps to broaden the power, smoothing it out throughout the low to mid-range of the power band. Since most 4-strokes have a small lag when you initially crack the throttle, it almost took us a little while to get used to the way the power was delivered on the bike, but once we did, like we said, it was impressive. Perhaps the biggest improvement in the engine department on this bike from last year is just that, as actual power doesn't feel greater than any other 450cc 4-stroke, it's just delivered much better and without any hesitation or bog. The bottom end power is awesome though, continues on through the mid and pulls up top. We rode the bike at Paris Raceway and fortunately never got to experience 5th gear on too many occasions. However, we're sure that on a faster track we would be able to do so. One thing is for sure though, the 5th gear helps to broaden out the power and helps make the bike even more fun to ride. As for the suspension and chassis, at first we were a little skeptical, but once we got accustomed to how the bike handled, just like the motor, we became fans. Our initial impression of the suspension led us to believe that the forks needed to be softened up. 2 clicks on the compression, however, proved to be too much, and after going back to the stock settings, we discovered that the harder you ride the bike, the better it handles. Turning the big Zook is just as good as previous years, as it wants to stick in ruts and rail through berms. Throughout our time testing it, we never experienced it pushing or washing out, which is exactly what you want from a bike. The bike now has a slim feel to it and feels far more nimble and lightweight when compared to the 07 version. Like we said throughout this test, we came away impressed with the new RM Z450. The fuel injection works really well, and in the short time we spent on the bike, we never had any problems with it. The new chassis also is a welcome change as it improves the feel of the Suzuki, while also dropping weight. Time will only tell how this new generation RMZ holds up, and since we haven't done any long-term testing aboard it, there's no way of knowing the amount of abuse that the new fuel injection system can withstand. One thing is for sure though, we would be happy to ride this bike any day of the week. Yes, it's just that good.